Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. The night bus doesn't stop for the living. The rain hit the windows so hard, it sounded like the sky was trying to break in. The bus shuddered under the weight of the storm as it rolled down an unlit road Maya didn't recognize. She sat, halfway back, soaked from the 10-minute run she'd made through the downpour to catch this last night route. Her backpack was still dripping, puddling under her feet. She hugged it close, mostly for comfort. The inside of the bus was freezing. The lights above flickered at random, humming with a low electric buzz that never quite faded. Everything felt off. Too quiet for a bus, too slow for the road, too cold for late September. There were only 5 passengers in total. Directly across from Maya sat a woman in a grey business suit with smeared mascara and trembling hands. She kept murmuring something under her breath while staring at the floor. Maya couldn't catch the words. Near the back, a teenage boy in oversized headphones slouched against the window. His fingers tapped nervously on his thighs. His head bobbed slightly to a beat, but from this angle, Maya could see his music player wasn't even on. Closer to the front, a man in a long coat twitched every few seconds. A shoulder jerk, a sudden blink, a finger snap like a nervous tick. He kept rubbing his chest like something was moving underneath his shirt. And then there was the old woman in the front seat, closest to the driver. She wore a black shawl pulled tightly around her body and didn't move, not once, not even when the bus jerked or groaned. Her eyes were closed. Maya had first thought she might be asleep, but now she wasn't so sure. She glanced toward the driver, hoping for some assurance. A radio announcement, maybe a quick stop, anything that might break the silence. But the driver didn't turn his head. He stared forward, like he was watching something far away. His mouth moved suddenly. Maya leaned in slightly. "Shouldn't have gotten on," he whispered. Her breath caught. "What?" No response. The bus kept crawling forward into the storm. Outside, the road looked strange. The buildings they passed were wrong, tall but crooked, like the storm had twisted them, bent them sideways. Windows glowed dim orange, and in a few, she could swear she saw silhouettes standing still, watching, but never blinking, never moving. The street signs were unreadable, letters that didn't exist in any language Maya knew, and at every corner stood something, people-shaped, unmoving, like statues made of fog, their mouths open too wide, their eyes locked onto hers. Her skin prickled. She hugged her backpack tighter and tried to breathe slow. It's a night bus, just a weird neighborhood. People see things when they're tired. The twitchy man suddenly stood up and stumbled down the aisle. He gripped the pole in front of her, his eyes twitching rapidly. His lips moved. "Did you see it?" Maya blinked. "See what?" He pointed outside, though they were in complete darkness now. The windows only reflected the inside of the bus. Everyone looked pale, half dead in the flickering light. "The mirror people," he whispered. "They don't know which side they're on anymore. They just watch." Maya's heart skipped. "I think you're—" The lights overhead popped. For a full second, the bus went dark, and in that moment, that blink of absolute darkness, she saw them. Dozens of faces pressed to the windows from the outside, watching, smiling, bleeding. The lights came back on with a loud snap. No faces, just rain. The twitchy man slumped into a nearby seat, mumbling to himself. Something clicked inside Maya. She stood up. "I need to get off." The driver didn't answer. The bus didn't slow down. "Excuse me," she said louder, walking to the front. "Can you let me off at the next stop?" Still nothing. She stepped beside him. His eyes were wide now, glassy. His lips quivered. "They don't let me stop," he whispered. "Not anymore. Who doesn't? They're watching, they're listening. And if you hear them say your name, it's too late." Suddenly the emergency brake slammed. The bus jolted violently. Maya crashed into the rail, catching herself with one arm. Someone screamed behind her, the businesswoman holding her. "Uncle!" The twitchy man was on the floor, giggling now. Not laughing, giggling like a child hiding a secret. The door creaked open with a long hiss. Fog poured in, thick and grey and cold, and then nothing. No more rain, no wind, just fog, stretching endlessly into the road ahead. The businesswoman stood, limping slightly. Her eyes were empty. "I think we're here?" Maya shook her head. "What? No? Where even are we?" The woman didn't answer. She stepped off the bus without hesitation. The teenage boy followed, dragging his headphones behind him now, wires tangled. The twitchy man ran after them, arms out like he was excited. Maya stood frozen. "Wait! Don't!" She turned toward the only one, left the old woman still in her seat, still motionless. But her head suddenly turned, her eyes opened, pitch-black, lidless, and in a voice not her own, low and scraping like metal against glass, she said, "You're the one it wants." Maya stumbled back. She rushed to the door, but the passengers hadn't gone far. They were still there, still standing in the exact same place, feet on the curb, facing the open road. Their faces were blank, lips slightly parted, eyes staring, not moving, not breathing. And when she looked down, she realized something impossible. Their shadows were facing her. The fog shifted, and Maya turned to call for the driver. He was gone. His seat was empty. The wheel turned by itself. The bus engine roared, and before she could jump out, the doors slammed shut. She was moving. Alone. Except... She turned back to look toward the back row, and that's when she saw it. Every passenger was back in their seat. But their eyes were hollow. Their faces were grey, skin cracked and flaking, dried blood crusted around their ears and mouths. The businesswoman's neck hung limp, broken to one side. The teenager's head lolled, wires from his headphones now tied. Around his throat, the twitchy man grinned, and the old woman... She was finally smiling, mouth wide, eyes wide, dead. Maya stumbled back, grabbing the nearest pole. "No, no, no, this isn't happening!" A noise started behind her, a rustling, something breathing. She turned toward the mirror above the driver's seat, and in that mirror her reflection was gone. In its place was her, but with black eyes. And behind her stood rows and rows of shadowy figures, watching, grinning. Cliffhanger Maya is now trapped on a moving bus that doesn't stop, with ghostly or demonic passengers who may be echoes of the dead. She may have been chosen. For what? We don't yet know. And something has already replaced her reflection, something waiting to take her place. Not everyone on the bus was dead. The bus roared into the fog like it was trying to outrun something behind it. Maya stumbled down the aisle, heart pounding so hard it echoed in her ears. The dead passengers sat completely still, heads tilted at unnatural angles, skin pale as ash. The air inside the bus had changed. It was thick now, humid, like something had breathed into it and never stopped. She tried to steady her hands as she reached for the emergency brake. Nothing. It was gone. The button panel near the front, shattered. Even the door controls had melted like wax. No, 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 no. She turned and saw the businesswoman's head slowly rotate toward her, bones cracked audibly, her jaw hanging lower than it should. Blood leaked from her nose, eyes, and ears, but her mouth moved in slow, deliberate syllables. "You never should have sat in that seat." Maya backed away. "What are you?" But the woman didn't answer. She just smiled, wide and bloody, then slowly turned her head forward again, as if nothing had happened. Maya rushed back down the aisle, needing to get away, but every step echoed too loud. The sound didn't match the motion. One step, two echoes. One breath, two shadows. The teenager in headphones, the one who had strangled himself with his own cords, suddenly turned toward her too, only this time he spoke clearly. "They watch through mirrors, and when you look too long, They become you. She froze. Who? Who's they? He blinked just once. Then he whispered, You already know. And then his face split open, not like skin tearing, but like a mask peeling back. Underneath was nothing, no bone, no muscle, just dark space. Maya screamed and sprinted down the aisle, arms swinging wildly, and threw herself against the back door. It didn't budge. Instead, the bus swerved hard left. She slammed into the side, the windows rattling with pressure. Out the back glass, through the fog, she saw something following them. Not running, not walking, just hovering. A figure. Pitch black. No face, just limbs stretched too far. It had no eyes, but seemed to know exactly where she was. Every second it grew closer. She banged on the door again. Nothing. Then she noticed it, a red emergency panel, half hidden under a layer of tape and grime. She tore it open. Inside was a rusted lever labeled Manual Eject, Driver Only. Her heart sank. There had to be a way out. She dropped to her knees and searched under the seats. Gum, dust, something wet. Her hands brushed against a soft object. A duffel bag. She yanked it out. It was the old woman's bag, still zipped. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside were two things, a black-bound leather journal and a mirror wrapped in cloth. Maya's hands shook as she opened the journal. The first page read, If you're reading this, you've already boarded the bus between. Rule 1, don't speak to them. They remember your voice. Rule 2, don't trust your reflection. It lies. Rule 3, you must never sit in the seat behind. The driver, that's where it chooses. She closed the book, breath shallow. Her seat, the one she took when she got on, was behind the driver. No, she whispered. No, I didn't know. I didn't know. And then she heard it, her own voice, soft, right behind her ear. I didn't know. She spun around. Nothing. Just the teenager's lifeless body slumped again, but the sound had been real. She'd heard herself. She looked at the cloth-wrapped mirror, hands trembling. She unwrapped it. The surface was cracked. At first it showed only her. Wet hair, shaking shoulders, eyes wide. Then, slowly, her reflection smiled. She didn't. Her reflection opened its mouth. You're not ready to leave. She dropped the mirror, and it shattered. The moment it broke, the bus screamed, a mechanical shriek that pierced the air, and for the first time the lights went out completely. Darkness. Complete. She could feel the movement, the engine, beneath her feet, but she couldn't see her own hands. Nothing, and then came the whispers. Voices, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, repeating her name. Again and again and again. Maya. Maya, Maya, she screamed, covering her ears. But the voices were inside her head now. And then a burst of light. The overhead lights blinked back on. Maya was standing at the front of the bus again. She didn't remember moving. The passengers were all turned toward her. Every one of them, the old woman, the teenager, the businessman, all eyes locked on her, and their mouths opened in perfect. Sink! One must stay! She stumbled back. What does that mean? Stay where? This isn't even real. You're not people. But they didn't move, and then the front door hissed open. No fog, no storm, just a roadside diner. Lights. On a neon sign flickering, no name. Just the word, Welcome. A man stood in the doorway. He wore a bus driver's uniform. Not the same man as before, younger, cleaner, almost kind-looking. He raised his hand and waved, then pointed at Maya, and mouthed, Get off, now. She looked. Around, the passengers were now smiling, as if this was what they'd been waiting for, as if this moment, her leaving, was the point. Maya hesitated. She stepped toward the open door. The air smelled clean, dry, like summer asphalt. She reached the top stair, then she froze, because in the glass door of the diner, She saw herself already inside, already smiling, drinking coffee, waiting. Cliffhanger Maya finds a journal revealing rules of the cursed bus between. She realizes she's been chosen by sitting behind the driver. A mirror hints she's being replaced. The bus stops at a strange diner with a man urging her to exit. But inside the diner, she sees herself already waiting. The other Maya. Maya stood frozen at the edge of the bus steps. The warm, open air outside should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt staged, like a trap in a dream, one where everything looked normal. But nothing was. Inside the diner, the woman who looked like her, same hair, same jacket, same anxious eyes, sat calmly at the window booth, sipping coffee. She turned her head slowly toward the door, toward Maya, and smiled. Not the way. She smiled. No, this one was mechanical, precise, too slow, too knowing. Maya's foot hesitated above the last step. Behind her, the passengers began to whisper again. They weren't moving. They weren't blinking. But they whispered, in one voice, perfectly synced. Step off. And she steps in. Maya's legs buckled. She clutched the rail and stumbled back into the bus. The door hissed shut behind her. Immediately the light inside changed, duller, grayish, like early morning after a storm. The bus began moving again, silently this time. No engine roar, no wheel rumble, just motion. She turned and saw that the bus was driving itself. The wheel twisted in eerie, smooth turns, hands free. Wherever they were going, she wasn't in control. Maya gripped the old woman's journal again, flipping pages wildly. Once. The bus between chooses you, it mirrors you. To leave, you must convince it you don't belong. Be careful. The longer you stay, the less of you there is left. She felt her own reflection watching her from every window. Her voice trembled. What does that mean? The answer came. In the reflection on the windshield, she saw herself, but not as she was now. Older, paler, more hollow. Trapped inside the bus, but no longer fighting. Just sitting in the seat behind the driver, staring forward, waiting. No, that's not going to be me. She turned to the passengers again. They were still. Then one of them moved. The old woman. Her eyes snapped open, her voice creaked. You sat in the seat, girl. The seat that seals the door. Maya stepped closer. What seat? Why is that seat different? The woman's fingers twitched in her lap. It doesn't pick randomly. It waits for grief. Maya's breath caught. In her throat. What did you say? You lost someone. You still carry it. You felt the weight when you boarded. That's how it knew. Maya stared at her. Her hands began to shake. My sister, she whispered. The old woman nodded slowly. It smells grief like smoke. And when it finds someone cracked open by loss, it takes their place, offers them something better. Closure, reunion, forgiveness. Maya sank into the nearest seat. I didn't even say goodbye to her. I was late. She called me, and I ignored it. She died that night. The bus lights flickered. The passengers turned toward her one by one. She's waiting, said the businessman. She forgives you, said the teenager. She wants to come back, whispered the reflection in the nearest window. Maya shot. Up from the seat. No, she's gone. This isn't her, this is you messing with me. But the reflections didn't change. They kept smiling. Then came a soft chime. Ding! The bus stopped. No screeching brakes, no slowing, just stopped. Outside, a field stretched wide under a blood-orange sky. In the middle of the field, a small swing set. One swing moved gently back and forth, though there was no wind. A girl sat on it. Long hair, small shoes. Maya knew exactly who it was. Ellie, her sister. 7 years old, wearing the pink jacket Maya had bought her for Christmas, the one that had gone missing after the funeral. Maya rushed forward, but the moment her foot touched the first step, the teenager on the bus grabbed her arm. Don't. His voice was clear now, strong, focused. They show you what you want. It's not her, it's bait. Maya's eyes burned with tears. She's wearing the jacket. That jacket was buried with her. The teenager nodded. Exactly, and now it's here. Why? Because you want it to be. She looked again. The girl on the swing smiled. Come play, she said in Ellie's voice. We have time now. Maya's knees weakened. Her heart ached. But something was wrong. Ellie had a scar on her chin from falling off her bike. The girl outside didn't. Maya stepped back. She looked to the journal again. The last page was now full. She hadn't seen it before. It read, when. It shows you your guilt, don't answer. When it shows you your past, don't follow. When it shows you yourself, run. The bus door shut again. This time the lights shattered. Glass fell in showers from above, cutting her shoulder, her hand, but she didn't feel the pain, because every window now showed the same thing. The diner from before. Only now it was everywhere. Outside every window, endless diners, infinite loops, and inside everyone a version of her sipping coffee, staring blankly. Then one of the reflections turned and looked right at her. Almost ready, it whispered. Then another. Almost mine. Maya grabbed the mirror shard from the floor. She held it up, not to look at herself, but to look at the seat behind the driver. It was empty. She had gotten up. She had left it. The bus didn't like that. It jerked violently, throwing her against the floor. The passengers screamed, but it wasn't human. It was a sound that didn't belong in this world. And then the door burst open, but not to the outside. This time, it opened to the inside, an infinite hallway, a maze of mirrors, each one showing a different version of her, some crying, some screaming, some grinning with blood-stained teeth. And at the very end of the hallway stood a door made of shadows. From behind it a voice spoke, her own voice, layered, demonic. Let me in. Cliffhanger Maya resists stepping into the fake memory of her dead sister. The bus between shows her infinite diners, reflections of herself growing stronger. She realizes she's no longer in the cursed seat, but the bus fights back. The bus opens a final inner door, leading to a nightmare hall of mirrors and a shadow version of herself demanding entry. The door of me. The door stood at the end of the mirrored hallway. It pulsed like it was breathing. Slow, deep, alive. Not made of wood or metal, but something darker, like smoke hardened into form. Veins of shadow twisted across its surface. From behind it, the voice spoke again, her own voice, warped and doubled. Let me in, Maya. The reflections lining. The hallway flickered like old TVs. In one mirror, Maya saw herself screaming in a hospital room. In another, she was holding a knife, her eyes empty. One version of her was laughing, wide-eyed and wet with blood. Another was kneeling in a shower, sobbing into her hands. She stepped backward. No, she whispered. This isn't me. None of this is me. But the mirror closest to her lit up, brighter than the rest. It showed her now, back on the real bus. Before any of this happened, the night Ellie died. She was slouched in her seat, headphones in. Her phone was lighting up again and again. Ellie's name. She had been calling, and Maya had been ignoring it. A text flashed next on the screen. I'm scared. Can you call me? Then silence. Then the timestamp. 10 minutes before the crash. Maya's breath caught in her chest. No, the mirrored version of herself looked directly at her through the glass. You made me. Suddenly all the mirrors cracked, not shattered, just enough to fracture her face 1,000 times over. A chorus of her own voice filled the space. You made me. You made me. You made me. Maya turned and ran back to the bus door. But it was gone. No more bus, no seats, no aisle, just mirrors and the door at the end. And now, footsteps, heavy, bare, wet. coming from behind the door. She spun back around. The voice came again, low and hungry. "You already opened it when you sat down. This is just the end of the route." "No," she said, backing away. "You're not real. You're just a trick, a reflection." The voice smiled through words. "Then why do I know everything you've done?" Maya's fingers gripped the shard of mirror still in her pocket, the same one she'd grabbed when the bus lights had exploded. Its edge had dried blood on it now, hers. But when she looked into it, she didn't see her own face. She saw the girl from the swing, Ellie, standing at the edge of the field with black eyes and a mouth open too wide, whispering, "Let her come, Maya. She can make it better." And then a horrible shift. The mirror turned hot in her hand. She dropped it screaming. The hallway went black. Only the door remained, glowing faintly from within, like fire behind frosted glass. From the darkness came a sound, breathing, a second. Breath joined it, then a third, until it sounded like a crowd waiting just beyond the door, all breathing in unison, all waiting for her to join. Maya stood frozen, then a whisper, no longer her voice. "A child's, I forgive you, Ellie." That was Ellie's voice. It sounded like her, no distortion, no echo, just 7-year-old Ellie, soft and shy. "I forgive you, Maya." Maya's eyes welled. "Ellie," silence. Then, "Just open the door." She stepped closer. Her hand trembled as she reached for the doorknob. It was ice cold and wet, like it had just come from the riverbed where they pulled Ellie's body out. The journal's warning echoed in her head. "When it shows you yourself." "Run!" She gritted her teeth. "No, you're not Ellie." The voice changed, suddenly deeper, older, mocking. "Of course I'm not. Ellie's dead." The door lurched forward, pushing outward from its frame like something behind it was slamming against it, once, twice, 3 times. With every slam, the hallway cracked. Mirrors fell off the walls. Some shattered, some bled, and Maya ran. She ran through the collapsing hallway, feet pounding glass, past the broken faces of herself, the ones that screamed, the ones that laughed, the ones that cried blood. She didn't know where she was going. There were no signs, no exit, just the echo of the bus horn. Once, twice, then a door appeared. Not the smoke door, a real one. Bus blue, rusty hinges, cracked glass panel at the top. She grabbed it and threw it open and fell through. Maya crashed onto a metal floor. She was back on the bus, but not in the same seat. This time, she was standing at the back, near the emergency exit. Everything was off. The passengers were gone, no whispering, no frozen faces. The bus was empty, except for one person, the other her. She was seated in the driver's seat now, calm, steady, hands on the wheel. She turned and smiled, but not with cruelty, with sadness. "You left the seat," she said softly. "You weren't supposed to." Maya approached slowly. "Who are you?" The figure blinked. Her eyes were normal. Her skin wasn't gray or cracked or bleeding. She looked just like Maya, but still. "I'm the part of you that never forgave yourself," she said. "I stayed. You left. You're not real. I was real enough to take the seat, to give you a way out." The other Maya stood up, and in her place, the seat was empty again. "Someone always has to drive it," she said, walking toward the back. "That's the cost." Maya looked around. The bus was moving again, but this time the windows showed light. Streets, trees, suburbs. She gasped. She recognized the street, her block, her old apartment. A familiar sign, Central Heights, last stop. "No," she whispered. This is home." The other Maya reached for the back door. Her body was flickering now like an image trying to stay intact. "It's yours again, but don't forget, Maya." She stopped, her voice lowered. "Grief doesn't leave. It waits, just like the bus between." With that, she stepped out into the shadows behind the emergency door and vanished. The doors opened. This time, Maya stepped off. The air was cold and real. She looked around. Trees rustling in the wind, people walking dogs. a man jogging with headphones. It was the real world. She stood there for a long time, feeling the sidewalk under her shoes, real, solid. She turned back. The bus was still there, but the moment she blinked, it was gone. No engine, no tire screech, nothing, just a gust of air and silence. She walked home in a daze. When she reached her apartment, she went straight to her closet. There, tucked in a box behind winter coats, was the old photo of her and Ellie at the fair. Ellie's eyes sparkled, that smile, wide and mischievous. She traced her finger over the glass. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have picked up." The light bulb above her flickered just once, then stilled. From outside, far off, a sound barely audible, but unmistakable, a bus horn. Summary: Maya faces the horrifying mirrored hallway and a shadow self behind a breathing door. She resists being lured by guilt, runs, and finds a way back to the bus. A version of herself had taken her place to buy her time. Now she returns to the real world. She escapes. But the bus isn't truly gone. The woman at stop 44. The bus always came late to stop 44. That's what Rachel told herself as she stood under the crooked street lamp, clutching her cardigan against the cold. Wind scraped dry leaves along the sidewalk like brittle whispers. The shelter beside her was covered in moldy flyers. One of them, fluttering weakly, read, "Have you seen this girl? Name, Ellie Torres. Age, 7. Last seen, 2017. Wearing blue dress and white sneakers." Rachel swallowed hard. It was the third time this week she'd seen that flyer, but it was the same exact copy. Same tears on the edge. Same water stain near the word seen. Even the date, always June 12th, 2017, never changed. She checked her phone. 2:11 a.m. Her shift at the hospice had ended over an hour ago. She should have just taken a ride share, a home, but something told her not to. Like a magnet in her chest pulling her here. Stop 44, where the bus always came late. The fog deepened. Streetlights flickered. Then she heard it. Low, mechanical, familiar. The bus. Its headlights pierced the mist. Like twin moons, it crawled toward her as if uncertain it should stop. She stepped forward, arm half raised. The bus hissed and creaked as it halted. Its door opened, empty inside, and except for the driver, an older woman, pale, lips dark red like dried wine. Rachel stepped on. "Route 17, she asked. The driver didn't answer, just nodded once and flicked her wrist toward the back. The lights above buzzed faintly. She moved down the aisle. The only seat open was toward the rear, worn, with something dark soaked into the fabric. She sat. As the doors hissed closed, she caught something in the corner of her eye. A small shape. She turned. A girl. Sitting, 2 rows behind, barefoot, wearing a faded blue dress and white sneakers. Rachel blinked. The seat was empty. She clutched her bag tighter, heart thudding. It had been a long night. Maybe too long. She hadn't eaten since lunch. The bus pulled away, rolling down streets she didn't recognize. Trees leaned over the road like watchers. The windows had started to fog, but not from the inside, from the outside. She tried wiping the glass. Her fingers came away cold and damp. Another stop. A man climbed on, tall, wearing a soaked hoodie, face hidden. He sat 4 seats ahead but didn't move, didn't even seem to breathe. Rachel shifted uneasily. The bus started again. Every few minutes, another person boarded. But something was wrong with each of them. One woman kept whispering to herself and clutching an urn. A man clutched a wedding photo, both halves of the couple torn down the middle. A teenager with burn scars down one arm cradled a broken violin. No one looked at each other. No one spoke. Rachel pressed the alert button above her. The driver didn't react. She pressed it again, then again. Still nothing. The windows had grown too dark to see through. The world outside was gone, just black. Then a whisper from behind her. Are you sorry? Rachel turned. Nothing there. She sat still, silent. Then, again, this time clearer, closer. Are you sorry, Rachel? She stood up, her knees buckled. A rush of cold air burst through the aisle. Then came the sound of dripping. She looked down. The floor of the bus was wet, and the water wasn't clear. It was red, dark, thick, seeping from the seats, the windows even, the overhead vents. Panic rose in her chest. She moved toward the front, but the aisle stretched, impossibly long now. Like the bus had grown deeper, infinite. She ran, seats blurred past. Faces turned slowly to watch her. Some no longer had eyes. Some were smiling, teeth long and wrong. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of metal and mildew. She reached the driver. The woman turned slowly. Her eyes were gone. Just hollow sockets, weeping black tears. You boarded, the driver whispered. Now you ride. I want to get off, Rachel screamed. You already did, she said, years ago. What? The woman raised a hand and pointed to the windshield. Rachel looked. Instead of road, the front window showed a living room. Her living room. A man stood in it, Jeremy, her fiancé. He was holding a photo in his hands, her photo, and he was crying. The date on the calendar in the background, October 14th, 2021. Rachel's blood turned to ice. That was the night she'd stepped into the road, after the fight, after she'd screamed at him that she never wanted to come back. The night she'd walked out, phone dead, storm raging, and the lights, headlights, brakes. And that didn't scream in time. She turned back to the driver. I'm dead. The driver said nothing. Rachel stepped backward. The world tilted. She fell, and landed in a seat again. This time the bus was still empty, except for one person, a girl, Ellie, 7 years old. She smiled at Rachel. It let some people go, she said. If they're ready. I'm not, Rachel whispered. Then listen carefully. Ellie leaned in. There's a door at the end of the bus. It won't open unless you remember what you did wrong. I didn't do anything. You left someone who needed you. Rachel's eyes burned. Jeremy? Ellie shook her head. Your mother. Memories crashed over her. The last call. Her mom, wheezing, asking her to come home. Rachel had ignored it, too angry, too tired of the years of guilt-tripping, of manipulation, of everything. And then the next call wasn't her mom. It was the hospice nurse. Too late. I didn't mean, Rachel gasped. I didn't want her to die alone. But she did. Ellie stood and pointed to the back of the bus. Rachel turned. There it was. A door she hadn't seen before. Black, cracked, glowing faintly. The same door Maya had once seen. Rachel moved toward it, legs trembling. The aisle was wet again. But this time the water was clear. Tears. As she neared the door, she heard her mother's voice, soft, gentle. Rachel. I'm not mad. The door clicked, unlocked. Rachel reached out, then turned back to Ellie. Will I see you again? Ellie's smile faded. If you're lucky, no. Rachel opened the door and walked through. She woke up on the sidewalk, in the real world. Paramedics were leaning over her, voices yelling. She's breathing, she's back. It was raining, but she could feel her fingers. She could feel everything. Later, they told her she'd been found near Stop 44, unconscious, no signs of trauma, just gone for nearly 2 hours. Her phone had 11 missed calls, all from Jeremy. She called him back and cried for a long, long time. But when she looked out her hospital window later that night, she saw something that made her blood freeze. A bus. Empty. Waiting. No. Headlights, no engine sound, just sitting under the rain, and in the back window, a small figure, a girl in a blue dress. Smiling, summary, a new protagonist. Rachel boards the cursed bus after a long shift. She encounters ghostly passengers, haunting echoes of guilt, and the mysterious Ellie. The bus reveals Rachel's near-death truth and gives her a chance to return. She escapes, barely, but the bus between still lingers. Waiting. The last passenger. The boy's name was Micah, 15 years old, buzzed haircut, red hoodie with a cigarette burn near the pocket. He carried a sketchbook in his lap, flipping pages restlessly as the bus rumbled through the dark. Micah didn't like talking. He preferred drawing monsters. Mostly, sometimes faces he couldn't remember, but swore he'd seen in dreams. And lately, he'd been drawing buses, the same one, over and over again, even though he hadn't ridden a bus in years, not since his sister died, not since the incident, the one no one talked about. But that night, something drew him out of the house. It was 3:11 a.m. He didn't know why he walked to the old bus stop on Harrow Street. It hadn't been in service for a decade, but when he got there, it was waiting, rusty, silent, headlights dim like dying stars, no driver, no one inside, yet the door opened when he approached. Micah hesitated, then stepped on. The door sealed behind him with a soft hiss. The interior was musty, smelled like rain and wilted flowers. Some of the seats were cracked. Dried blood flecked the corners of the windows. He walked toward the back. He didn't plan to stay. He just wanted to see. He sat and opened his sketchbook. The bus began to move. No driver, no engine noise, just motion. And then passengers began to appear, not board, just appear, one by one. In the seat across from him sat an old man cradling a lantern. His face was half burned, but his eyes were kind. He nodded at Micah and whispered, "You're the last." Micah frowned. "Last what?" The man didn't reply. More passengers flickered into existence. Maya, eyes sunken, whispering to herself, blood still dripping from her fingers. Luis, clenching the crucifix around his neck, tears cutting paths through the ash on his cheeks. Rachel, pale but alive, looking out the window, gripping a locket, and in the back corner, a little girl in a blue dress. Ellie, she was humming. Micah stood up. "Why am I here?" No one answered. Then came the whisper, soft and surrounding him. "Draw." His fingers trembled. He flipped to a blank page. The pencil moved on its own. Lines formed. A bus. People inside. Faces full of pain and fear. A massive crack down the center. And behind the crack, something watching. Not human, not even a spirit, something older. He turned the page. More drawings. The hospice where Rachel worked. The church Louis clung to. The town Maya never left. The house Micah grew up in. It was all connected. This bus, this cursed machine, but wasn't just haunted. It was a vessel, collector, feeding on grief, guilt, pain. Micah remembered the day his sister died. It was his fault. He had dared her to cross the street. "Bet you won't," he'd said. She giggled and ran. The bus came too fast, didn't even stop. And that night, he'd drawn it over and over again, hoping to erase what he saw, but it had never left him, and now, here it was. "She's been waiting for you," a voice said. He turned. Ellie. She stood in the aisle, barefoot, eyes wide. "Who are you?" Micah asked. "I'm the memory that doesn't fade," she whispered. "The guilt that lives when others die. We all are, and you're the last thread." "What does that mean?" "It means it ends with you." The lights dimmed. A sound, like whispering glass and shifting bones, filled the bus. The windows cracked inward. From outside, something pressed against the walls. Hundreds of hands. Pale. Dead. Reaching. Rachel screamed. Luis dropped to his knees, praying louder. Maya curled into herself, whispering names. The bus shuddered. A door opened at the front. The driver stepped on. No face. Just a void with glowing teeth. It turned toward Micah, then pointed. "You brought them here. I didn't mean you drew it." Again and again. "You called us. Called me." Micah dropped his sketchbook. Pages flapped open like wings in a storm. Ellie stepped beside him. "You can end it. But you have to choose." "What? Take the seat. Drive it into the dark. Let the others go." The driver's head snapped backward, shrieking. Micah looked at the seat. Leather cracked. Wheel rusted, but behind it, a tunnel. Endless. Black. Breathing it wanted him. "Why me?" Ellie whispered. "Because you're the only one who still believes it's real." Micah looked at the passengers, all of them watching, all of them waiting. He stepped toward the seat. The bus began to burn, from the edges inward, flame without heat, light without comfort. He gripped the wheel. The driver lunged. Micah swung. The door closed, pinning it outside. The bus screeched and lunged forward. "Faster, faster!" Ellie's voice reached him again. "You have to crash it." "What?" "It only ends in wreckage. That's how we all got here. It's the only thing it understands." Micah stared down the tunnel. He saw it now. A wall. Solid. Final. No turning back. He pressed the pedal. The passengers were glowing, their skin peeling away like paper, revealing light, memories, love, sorrow, regret. Micah felt himself crying, not from fear, from release. He looked at the faces, and then he saw her, his sister, in the second row, smiling, forgiving. The wall came closer, closer, white. Silence. Nothing. Micah opened his eyes. He was lying in a field. It was morning. The sun rose gently. No bus, no tracks, no sound, just dew and wind. His sketchbook lay beside him, pages blank, all but one, a single drawing, his sister, and beneath it, written in a child's hand, "You came back for me." Micah wept. Epilogue. Over the years, people stopped seeing the bus. No more late-night rides that vanished. No more whispers at haunted stops. But those who survived, Rachel, Luis, Maya, all reported the same dream for years after. A bus burning in the sky, a boy at the wheel, and behind him, in the seats, every soul that had ever been lost on Route 17, smiling, finally free. Final message. Sometimes the only way out of grief is through the fire. And some passengers are never meant to arrive. The end.